And then if I was to say something to you, I have to make sure you don't take it as an insult. And then I'm going to even say something even more crazy. If you really want me to teach you a few things that are worth learning, you have to fall in love with me. Now for you, that means you have to become gay. No. That narrative doesn't exist for you. You wouldn't know what to do with it. And then there is the social pressure. You're going to go home and you're going to say to your dad, yeah, I got this teacher, I'm going to his house. Why? Been going there every night, what's going on? Should I report him? And then he's going to say, be your own man. So before you can learn anything about this, there has to be a shift in the way you perceive culture. It's something that I was saying to people yesterday. You have to become Persian first. Metaphorically speaking. But not to be, to make things too complicated. The Indians have this wonderful idea or philosophy, which is this. If you have deep, intense yearnings about identity, about meaning, about purpose, and there is something about you that just comes out, erupts, and says, I need to know, I want to know. I am sad because I don't know. There is a chance that some things about you can open up and you can perceive certain things, you can understand certain things. The negative part of that is because of, again, this particular culture, you have intellectual power now. The culture lacks this very important component called humility. And because you lack culturally as well as individually, you lack the humility component. You become this wisdom that you now have that was supposed to save you and baptize you and cleanse you, now makes you arrogant. And you become as corrupt and as contaminated as Gilgamesh. Remember all these things that I talk about, that's humility? These are stages, these are arts that you have to learn. Being guided. You can't be guided unless, look, when you do your map quest, what happens? Google Maps. You submit yourself to technology. You say, whatever it says, I will do. And even if it leads you astray, even if you take the wrong path, you type the address again, it'll give you direction again, and you will follow it by the letter, to the letter. That's how you need to be to Socrates. You won't be able to do that just yet. If it makes any sense.
It does.
You have a great voice. Rebel?
So, if you need a teacher or a guide for a spiritual path, how would you find one?
You can't.
Can I have a quick follow-up question? So,
yeah.
Well, if you can't then, and we can't go on one, then, and actually my question then was like, how would you recognize a good teacher?
Look, there are...
Sorry.
Phoebe, you're on fire.
Yes, ma'am.
There are a couple of things. Recognition falls into... That was beautiful, Gavin. You can recognize someone as, so to speak, a spiritual guy by simply being inspired, having feelings. Okay, almost all of us, you go to a coffee shop and you look at someone, you're inspired, you have certain feelings about them, but that doesn't mean anything. And you can follow them, pursue them. And there comes a point where, one of the nice things about today's spiritual market is that first, everything is broadcasted. Second, no one does things one-to-one. It's like Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru or some Teach Tak Khan Mangan sits on a stage, talks about 5,000 people. You know, it's an example I like to always, share with people is that sometimes I'm just tired, so I, turn on the TV, go to YouTube, and in the search engine I type Eckhart Tolle. And so some guy comes, to the microphone and says, Eckhart, thank you, this is beautiful. I have anger issues. I'm really, really angry. What should I do? And Eckhart, looks like a pig and has this stupid grin on his face. He looks at this guy and says, don't be angry. Don't live in the past. Don't live in your mind. And the questioner looks and says, oh my God, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I am enlightened. And goes back to his seat. This is no way to deal with people if you happen to be honest. Because the truth is, you have every right to be angry about life. Life is crap. I mean, you're under an avalanche of obligations and commitments you don't really want. You're born without anybody asking you. You're forced to go to school. You're forced to get a job. You're forced to be socialized. You're forced all sorts of things. Add to it, you do all the stuff, you're still miserable. You have a job that exploits you on a daily basis. You have a companion, you look at, you want to throw up. You have kids you dislike because emotionally they suck, right? Intellectually they're stupid. You take classes, they're uninspiring. You go home exhausted. Add to it, you get to be 50, 60, 70, your body falls apart. And God forbid if you come to a certain place in your life where you look at your life and you say, damn, really? This is my life? It sucks. You have every right to be angry. It's not that you shouldn't be angry, it's how you should express anger. I mean, you wouldn't have evolution without anger. You need to have Karl Marx seeing poor people being exploited, sitting in his room and writing masterpieces. You need to have someone like David Thoreau, who sees how bad society is and gives us this notion of utopia. Your question was, how do you find the spiritual guy? Look, a couple of things. Let's just say some of in this class are Christians and you truly believe that Jesus was God. Fine. Look at his disciples. Not a single one truly understood him. Not one. Peter the rock, he denied him 3 times. Read the Gospel of Mark, the best gospel, if you want to know how wisdom is received. Poor Jesus, he is misunderstood left and right, all the way almost to the end of the book. Look at Moses. Despite rescuing all these people, what do people do when they cross the sea? They worship a calf or a cow or a pig. Look at Muhammad. 22 years of prophecy, he fought about 40 battles. Look at Lao Tzu. He left China. He said, screw these people. Look at Malcolm X, Mahatma Gandhi, shot by their own people. It is very, very difficult to recognize. It is really very, very difficult to submit. It is very difficult to have students. Socrates was very, very, very lucky to have a Plato-like student. Plato wasn't as lucky as himself. Why? Because Aristotle, despite working with Plato for 20 years, came to reject most of Plato's ideas. Teaching and learning, they're both difficult crafts to master. Because if it was easy, then Jesus wouldn't be crucified. Malcolm X wouldn't get shot.
So then, if I have these questions I have no answers to, what's the different? Like, could I just give up everything in my world and like the Buddha or, go on a spiritual quest? Like, what's so different between, like, why doesn't Gavin just give up his life and go on this quest?
Well, Gavin can give up his life if it gets to a place of need and the need is intense enough. Look, you don't just give up anything. What you do is first you look at something. You look at something you've had in your life for many, many, many years. Then all of a sudden, without any warning, you say, what is the value of this in my life? Why am I so attached to this? What is it doing for me? You begin to question its existence and its relevance to you, if physically, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, even spiritually. If you continue on that path, there is nothing for you to give up. When it loses its value, you just walk away. You don't give it up. To give up means there's a conflict, that you're trying to get yourself away. There comes a point where the orange simply falls from the tree. There is nothing to give up. It's ripe enough to walk away. The Buddha had no conflict walking away from the parents, or from his wife, or from his kid. When you come to realize, like the Buddha did, I'm getting old, is there a remedy to that? No. If I can't fix my old age, are you telling me I have to sit there and watch my own kid get old? The answer is yes. So as a father, what can I do? Not too much. Just sit back and watch your son die. How about sickness? Can I heal my son? Can I make sure he never gets sick? The answer is no. Well, what sort of power do I have in his life? Nothing. You can only be there when he's comfortable. In sickness, there isn't much you can do. How about death? Can I keep him from dying? The answer is no. When you come to realize that you are going to get old, youth will disappear, you will get sick, and you will die, that you have no power over life or time. And it's something that Gilgamesh suffers tremendously. You love, and life takes it away from you. And you say, really? I did all that work. I sacrificed all of my life to protect this. And all of a sudden, just life takes it, just like that. And then you say, if that's the case, what is worth pursuing? Is there something that life can't touch? In these traditions, the answer is yes. If you can find the 2/3 within you that's divine, it is immortal, it is eternal. Look, I don't know if Gilgamesh is 4,000 years old, 5,000 years old, 20,000 years old. What I do know is that this is 2022. We speak of him today. I don't know if Jesus existed or not. What I do know is that we talk about him. These people have become immortal. One of the things that we'll talk about in great detail when we come back on Monday is that there comes a point in the life of Gilgamesh where he says, I don't want to be forgotten. See, the four of us here, forgive me for getting so close, the four of us, all farts here, there are moments we look at everything that we have done and we ask ourselves, maybe not out loud, am I going to be remembered? It is a frightening place to be in life. I mean, look, he's going to go to Santa Barbara in a couple days. She's going to stay. You know what he's going to do? He's going to call her every day because he doesn't want to be forgotten. She's going to call him every day because she doesn't want to be forgotten. It's a profoundly frightening place to be in life. That you do all the stuff, then you die. Then someone buys a tombstone for $5,000, but no one ever pays you a visit in the cemetery, as if you've never existed. And today's 2022 in America, everybody has a mommy or a daddy issues. At least before you go to the cemetery, pay your respect to your dad once a year. Today, if you go, you'll shit on your father's grave.
So then if you go through the stages, like, so maybe I've gone through bronze, silver, what are them? Like iron, bronze, silver, and you get the humanitarian, Socrates starts talking to you, you hear the calling, and these are all these unanswerable questions, and there are no teachers or spiritual guides. What do you do? I mean, also that if it's this complicated thing that we mere mortals, we're all just stupid to do anyways, and we're in this society and we're lazy, and what do I know, then why even do it? I mean, like, why don't I just go back and drink and smoke weed and have that great sex until I die?
Well, because you can't. Because you're past those stages, even if you wanted to. I mean, you could, but the outcome is walking away with a good amount of guilt and then shame and then remorse. Not because you love God or because you know God, not because you care for your husband. There is something about you that says, rebel, you're bigger, you're much more mature than this, you're more intelligent, you're more insightful. How could you drag yourself into the shithole again?
But I'm not that smart, because there's these unanswerable questions. I have no teacher, no guide, so like, what is the point?
All I know is the following. If you're sincere enough, if you're honest enough, things happen. I don't know how, I don't know why, they just happen. Look, imagine yourself to be a blade of grass. Go back to the saying in the Gospels. You can't make the grass grow by pulling it. You may desire to grow, you may desire to find God or truth or whatever, but you can't force it. It doesn't work on your time. Look, one of the best stories that you will ever read comes from the Gospel of Matthew. I don't think anyone has ever told a better story. It's called The Prodigal Son. It's beautiful. And it's beautiful because there is a wisdom in this father. Because the son goes to him and says, give me the portion. When you die, you're going to leave some money. Give me that portion now. Let me go have fun with it. He doesn't sit him down and say, let me educate you about pleasure, son. Let me tell you a thing or two about money. How long it took me to save like $10,000. None of that stuff. Why? The father knows young people are far too dumb to talk to. You can't make your son mature by forcing him into it. It doesn't work. But the father also has the capacity to endure a good amount of pain. The feeling of betrayal. I'm going to give him the money. He's going to burn it all. I just hope that he comes back, and the son does. We are all in that situation. I think a good teacher, if you were to find some good teacher and you would go to him and say, I have these desires. I think for the first year, this teacher will tell you, go back to your own life. Go back to life. Take care of your physical life. This stuff is no good. And there is a reason. When Gilgamesh begins his spiritual quest, every junction, he runs into a new entity, and they tell him, Gilgamesh, this is sacred grounds. Gilgamesh, only gods ask questions like this. Only God says, I want truth, not mortals. These questions are only destined for the gods, not you. Are you sure you want to? Go back to Uruk, get married, have children, have a good time with life. Don't go any further. And Gilgamesh says, I know how the world works. I know how desires work. I know how love works. I know the world takes everything away. I know I will get old. I know I will die. I know I will be forgotten. I don't want those things. I want the truth. He goes 5 days on this quest. Then he runs into this other person. I'm here because they told me that you have the answers. Gilgamesh, go back home. It's not good for you. No one invites you. Good teachers never invite you on this quest. The best example, it's a symbol of in many cultures about the spiritual quest, and also appears in the realm of medicine, which is the snake. It has to shed its skin, otherwise it'll suffocate. If snakes are not successful in shedding their skin, they will suffocate. You have a skin, the physical life, the emotional life, the intellectual life, and all the things that come with it. All the memories, all the history, all the narratives. That's your skin. Now you're saying, I want out, I'm dying. Like your skin, the snake, you have to get rid of all of it. It's too much. Don't let these books or these new age stuff con you. You know, it's not like you go to India, come back 2 weeks later and you have access to things. You don't.
So in Daughter of Fire, when she goes to, I'm sorry.
No. You're good.
When she goes to the guru, you know, she sits, and like you say, the teacher doesn't invite her. She sits and she pretty much gets abused for
Right.
a long time.
Yeah.
So, like, how would you tell the difference between a good teacher and, say, a cult leader? Isn't the path kind of
Oh, you
the
can't.
same?
We say in Persian that marriage is like buying a watermelon. You know, it's not like America where fruits are engineered in some shape or form. You go to Costco, any watermelon you pick, it's red and it's sweet. You know, if you eat too much of it, you'll become diabetic. Okay? That's not the way Middle East works. You have a huge truck, and you can't go to the guy and say, is it going to be good? And the guy says, of course. He says, yeah, they're all red, sweet, beautiful. You go home, you cut it open, it tastes bad, and it's yellow. And so we say, marriage is like that. It's a gamble. You know, on the outside, it looks really, really good. You go home, you cut it open, you realize, oh, shucks. You know, this is the wrong man. This is the wrong marriage. This is the wrong relationship, okay? And the truth is, almost every aspect of life is the same thing. You go somewhere being somewhat sincere, and then you get exploited. It's a gamble that you have to take. And the truth is, in some ways, whenever you become obsessed, infatuated, you fall in love, you also create a companion that comes with love. It's called faith. And with faith comes trust. And faith and trust force you into submission. You accept the abuse. Okay? But there comes a point where your faith begins to kind of fall into doubt. And then you won't submit as much. And then your reflective abilities begin to blossom. And when you begin to reflect, as Martin Luther, the 15th century, would say, reflection becomes the whore of Athens. You begin to examine. You become business-minded, pros and cons, benefit, loss. Okay? And then it becomes contaminated. Then you go to the gathering, you listen to this person talk, but one ear trusts, the other ear doubts. And that's when you should get out. None of us know. I think if you are sincere, that sincerity protects you.
But the world doesn't work like that.
It does.
No, but the world doesn't protect me because I'm sincere.
It does.
It beats me up.
I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about if you want to go on this quest, like Gilgamesh. Because Gilgamesh was tempted. Every time he wants to move up a notch, he gets tempted by sex, by drugs, by alcohol, by power. He says no.
But so if I go on this quest, then since I wouldn't know, I gotta go into it sincerely and faithfully. I won't know if I'm following Jesus or Hitler.
Oh, no. What usually happens, Rebel, is that, you know the village in Haiti where people worship this rock? It's a village. Someone takes a rock,
Okay.
paints it, and people sit there and worship. As long as you believe, it will work for you. It's only when you stop believing that you become a skeptic. And maybe to some extent that's the trick. There are tons of great stories that Jesus didn't exist. I mean, you look at the mythological figures that we've had, especially in the Greeks and the Romans. There have been close to about 20 mythical figures who were born of a virgin, who leave at the age of 12, come back at the age of 30, preach for about 3 years, and then get crucified. Even if you're interested in astrology, the sun enters a certain house at the age of at the 30th degree, leaves the house at the 33rd degree. I mean, people have played with these ideas for centuries, but it's because you believe that all of a sudden Jesus has all this power in your life, creates shame and guilt and soul and paradise and Satan and damnation. The trick is to believe. I am very, very, very sorry to have taken so much of your time. You guys look exhausted. It's not their fault. For those of you who enjoy these ideas, give me a flash drive, at least 16 gigs. I'll give you copies of lots of audio books and lectures that you may enjoy for free. The Author of Fire is a really, really good book. You don't have to like these ideas, but it's just good to be familiar with how this stuff works a little bit. Do you have any comments or questions before we go home and go back to our ordinary, pathetic little lives? Yes?
So, the Epic of Gilgamesh is a story about a guy, and there's all these components. And we look at the story as a sort of allegory, and we derive various principles and teachings from it. At what point does our life become an allegory? Because that seems like the requirement for what Rebel's saying. I mean, there's no going away from your life, right? To go on a spiritual quest, because what John Kabat-Zinn said, it's wherever you go, you're already on your quest.
I don't really know all of that. All I know is the following: that you start every pursuit assuming that you know, assuming that they are going to be the bringer of joy and happiness and fulfillment and comfort. Okay? You're going to make lots of effort, lots of sacrifice, and hopefully you will obtain it. Once you obtain it and some time passes, you realize it's not doing for you what it used to do, and then it becomes somewhat irrelevant. So, in our journey from birth to death, we go through all these allegories of decay. Okay? You look at a marriage, you're about to get married, it's beautiful. Okay? They're the shadows. And you can't really see anything else. You just see the bouquets, the flowers, the guests, the tables, the food. You're just enamored by all that. time passes, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few years, you look at your wife or your husband, you say, it wasn't that big of a deal, really. And I don't really like this person that much. I mean, I'll tolerate him for another 50 years, but hey, whatever. And you have realized a few things. You know, I think all of life is that. You know, I spent many of my years going to school and getting degrees. They mean nothing. And when you get to a certain age, like the four musketeers here, you know, forgive me for including Greg and Karen into.
Envy, don't stop including.
What? You don't want to. You don't want to be. You know, and maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a miserable, unhappy bastard in this classroom. But you know, you look at almost everything, and it's an exercise in futility, really. One of the best stories that speaks to this is by Hermann Hesse. What is it called?
Siddhartha.
Yeah, Siddhartha. You know, Siddhartha thinks he can learn, and Buddha thinks he can teach. They have this relationship. In the end, Siddhartha goes to the Buddha, screams at him, "You seduced me. You made me fall in love with you. You made me assume that you're going to give me your wisdom. And in the end, I realize you can't." And the Buddha also realizes that, you know, it's non-negotiable. You can't just transmit wisdom to someone. He can't teach and he can't learn. And, you know, you have to teach yourself and you have to learn through yourself. But initially, you depend on other people on the outside, and you trust them and you love them. And that's how it ought to be. You know, you can't do it any other way. And then in the end, you realize that you just have to go into a cave and you sit there for a long, long time, and hopefully, you know, like Gilgamesh, something happens, you realize, and then you go on a different journey. I mean, look, I've published books. It's exciting. Don't get me wrong. It's really, really exciting. You sit there and you focus and you write. The publisher contacts you, you send it to them, and they publish it. It's a high. 10 minutes later, you see the book. Oh, okay, fuck it. Just throw it somewhere and just go about your business. It doesn't do anything. And that's the thing. You know, the more reflective you are, the more miserable you are. You know, it's like a centipede. You have 100 legs. Everything's going smoothly. And someone goes and says, "Oh, centipede, you have 100 legs. How can you keep such harmony and balance?" And the centipede says, "Ah, stupid question." And then says, "That's really, look at all these legs. Really, how come I don't trip over myself?" And so begins to walk and trips. Because he wants to figure out how these 100 legs are moving so harmoniously. I mean, it's like, I'm not thinking about what I'm talking about. It just comes out. I have no control over them. Imagine if I was to try, what word should I use? I would probably stumble. You guys are so depressing. Do you have any questions or comments? Don't you guys want to go home? Don't you have like a pee or something, or you're not hungry?
Starving.
You are?
I'm starving, but I have one more question. So.
Go ahead.
Sorry. But so then, if all this reflection makes you miserable, would you not be happier without reflection?
عشق در دریای غم غمناک نیست. You know how some people say that my divorce was really, really difficult for me and my kids, but especially for me. Some people say. But if it wasn't for my divorce, I wouldn't be the person that I am. You know, it's like someone being addicted to alcohol for like 20 years. They lose their health, they lose their wife, they lose their kids, they lose their parents, they become an outcast, they are pushed aside by society. All of a sudden, after many tries and fails, something happens. They say, "I'm going to go through rehab. I really wanted to make it work." And this time it does work. for 5 or 6 or 7 years, they don't drink at all. And they don't go drinking for like 20 years. And then someone calls them and says, can you guide our center, please? We have like 20 people who are trying to do the rehab. And all of a sudden, this guy who was paralyzed by alcohol now becomes a prophet for about 30 people in the center. And it's true, if it wasn't for this, you wouldn't be this. You know, the problem is this. When you're a novice, it's painful to learn to the alphabets. It's painful to walk. It's painful to run. It's painful to do anything that you're new at. But once you become proficient, they become tools with which you survive life. Initially, you're beginning to reflect, and nothing is going to smell good upon reflection. You're not going to smell good. Your marriage is not going to smell good. Whatever you've done in your life, present, past, is not going to smell good. Everything will smell bad. And you have to kind of stay in this bad place for about 10 years. And someone needs to guide you and protect you and nourish you. And because you want to go into the hole and kill yourself, but the phone call comes, come to the house, let's sit and have some food and watch a movie. That's how they protect you. That's what spiritual guides do, okay? Because they've been through the journey. They know how it works, okay? And then after 10 years, you begin to realize a few things. And that which initially caused you pain, sorrow, paralysis of your body and your emotions and your mind, all of a sudden give rise to poetry. They force you to go to church, pray, cry, and you feel connected, and you're fulfilled, and you're complete because of this poverty. So initially things are tough, but once you become good, you know, you season life's tragedies in a beautiful way. عشق در دریای غم غمناک نیست. If you're in love with the ocean of sorrow, if you love sorrow because it moves you to write poems, it moves you to give sermons, and you see this beautiful image of yourself while you write poetry, and while you use language to express the sorrow within clearly, articulately, it's like a sermon, inspires yourself and other people, then you say, when the sorrow isn't there, I miss it. Because without the sorrow, I can't write poetry. If I can't write poetry, I'm just meat. If I'm just meat, I am useless. I want sorrow to be useful. Initially, you hated sorrow. Now you fall in love with it. And that's how it is. Yeah.
What language were you speaking?
Persian.
Oh, yeah?
It is the most romantic,
Your
the
native,
most exotic.
Your native tongue that you grew up
Yes.
speaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't find a more beautiful language than Persian.
I don't doubt you.
Yeah, you shouldn't. And you will never find poetry as beautiful as Persians.
Like Rumi?
Oh, yeah. Rumi, Hafiz, Sa'di, Baba Tahir.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't find people like this.
All right.
Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. That makes me feel so good.
Even though you're teaching Gilgamesh and you never read it.
That's true too.
But at least you revealed it.
I wing it.
Yeah. Okay.
It just sounds good.
You revealed it.
Well, I'm sorry again to have taken so much of your time. I know you're tired, so you want to go home. So thank you for patiently just sitting and listening to my nonsense. When we come back on Monday, we'll talk some more about nonsense. What's Monday? Someone died? The what? A new holiday? What is it?
Oh, yeah, Juneteenth, yeah.
You sure it's a holiday?
Pretty sure it's a federal holiday.
It's a federal holiday?
Pretty sure it's a federal holiday. That doesn't count. Federal holidays count.
What?
There's no school on Juneteenth.
It's on Sunday though. That's the how we're going on Monday. Not on Monday.
probably on another date. That's why. Oh. Okay. Well, listen. No school on Monday then.
What are you factoring?
Oh, we can still come.
You want to come to this class?
I don't have anything better to do.
If you guys want, just you know what? Email me. If you guys want to come here on Monday, well, we can come on Monday. So what?
Will there be food?
Yeah. So if we have more than like 5 or 6 people, if I get emails, then we'll come to school. If I don't get emails, I'll just come to school by myself. Okay. Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. I didn't say anything. Were you just gonna come to school?
Well, you know, you messed it up.